Okay, we're going to go over your lease agreement that you should have received by DocuSign if you're signing up for a new lease, or you could just be reviewing this video in advance of filling out an application, and this will basically just go over the highlights of that lease agreement. We obviously won't be able to hit everything, but we'll go over the most important parts. So when you first open the lease, you'll see your name and the property address right at the top, along with the legal description, which is just used for legal purposes, of course. The start and end date of the lease. If your lease starts in the middle of a month, then the lease will still end on the end of a month. We always end all leases on the last day of a month. We don't end them in the middle of a month. If we don't give you possession of the property within 3 days of the start of the lease, you can terminate the lease. That would be pretty unusual, obviously. Your rent is listed right here, along with our address. Even though we generally don't take rent at our office, you'll pay that electronically, but we still put our address right here in the lease, so you have it. If you're moving in the middle of a month, there'll be a prorated rent amount listed right here. And it also states that if you're moving in after the 20th of the month, you'll have to pay the prorated rent plus the next month's regular rent. We do take electronic payments generally. There can be fees for that. Generally, if you set up an automatic payment from your bank account, there's no fee for that, but other forms of online payments do have a small fee. There's a $2.75 or whatever amount is listed in your lease. This is the amount as we record this video, but that covers our technology administrative fee, which is basically how we pay for our 24/7 maintenance line, the online resident portal, and some other items. If you're renting a property with a septic system, there'll be septic rent listed right here. And if you have credit less than the optimal credit of 650 on your credit score, then it will have a credit contingency fee listed here that you'll also have to pay. And obviously these amounts are added on top of the regular rent. Any payments you make will be applied towards the oldest charges first. Rent is late if it hasn't been paid by the end of the day on the 2nd, and then the late fee will be listed right here. If you bounce a payment, there's also a $75 bounce payment fee. And if you ask us to pick up rent from you, there's a $50 fee for that. If we have to file eviction against you, which hopefully won't happen, but if we do, this is the amount you would be charged for court costs and attorney's fees to reimburse us for that. The amount of your security deposit is listed here, and it says who will hold that security deposit. In this case, us, the broker, Central Georgia Realty, or it could say GTL Real Estate, or it could very well say a property owner if we're not managing the property but just renting it out. But it will say right here who the holder of the deposit is and where that money is being deposited. Then it goes over how you get your deposit back. Basically, return the property to us in the condition you receive it without owing any money on your rent or other fees. Give us proper notice. Return all keys. And you should return your deposit back. If you cause any damage to the property, it says that will be deducted, along with a fee to rekey the locks if you don't return the keys. And of course, we'll provide you with a move-out statement after you move out of the property. We'll prepare that within 3 days, and then you have 5 days to request your own inspection if you have any concerns about the statement we provide you. And then you can provide a written objection to anything that you don't think you should have been charged for. Obviously, we'll send that statement to your last known address if you don't give us a forwarding address. Now, this says the security deposit is being held by us, the broker. That's true almost all of the time. The only exception to that would be if we're only renting the home and not managing it. But if we're managing the home, then we hold the deposit in our escrow account. If you choose not to move into the property after you've paid your deposit, if you back out, then you do not get that deposit back. If the property is sold during the term of your lease, if the owner sells it to another owner, then we will automatically return the deposit to you. You are required to turn your utilities on into your name within 3 days of the start of the lease. There will be a $25 utility fee for any utilities we have to bill you for because you didn't switch them into your name. There will be a move-in and move-out inspection form as discussed earlier. You'll get copies of those. It's your responsibility to notify us of any conditions at the property that require maintenance or repairs. It's your responsibility to take care of the lawn and exterior of the property. That includes the gutters, mowing, edging, and trimming. Any clogged drains or pipes, those are your responsibility to get those cleared. We can always send our vendor out if you'd like, but you will be responsible for paying for that service. Pest control, if it's termites or rodents, let us know about that. That's a landlord responsibility and we'll get those fixed. If it's other forms of pests, that would be your responsibility to take care of. Make sure you replace the smoke detector batteries. And if it's going to be freezing temperatures, keep the faucets dripping and keep the heat on. Mold and mildew, let us know if there's any problems. Give us any access codes to security systems that you have. Make sure you get the carpets cleaned at least every 12 months and prior to moving out. And also change the furnace filters every 3 months. Repairs of appliances, if the appliance is a stove or a dishwasher or a built-in microwave, we will get that taken care of. If it's a refrigerator or a clothes washer or dryer, though, that is your responsibility. If you want to use the neighborhood amenities, such as a pool, you'll have to pay the HOA fees, so make sure you let us know so we can get you access to those amenities. Sometimes that involves a key card or something to that effect. Make sure you keep your animals on a leash at all times. Any fires at the property, that would be your responsibility to take care of any repairs. We'll go over the lead-based paint amendment in a second. Generally, this will say the property has not been flooded, but you can check that to make sure on your lease. You are not allowed to sublet the property or assign it to someone else. The property is only for the use of the people who are listed in the lease agreement. Obviously, make sure you aren't a nuisance to your neighbors and follow all the neighborhood rules. This says we have access to the property with 24 hours notice, Monday through Saturday from 9 to 8 p.m. And also during the last 60 days of the lease, we have access to show the property and to put a lockbox and sign on the property so we can find a new tenant. Every time you deny us access, there's a $50 charge for that. Obviously, follow all the rules, all the laws, state laws, local ordinances, etc. Don't put no holes in the walls, even to hang pictures. No water beds, space heaters, or window air conditioners or heaters without our approval. Obviously, be safe. Don't use roller blades or skateboards or anything else without safety equipment. Don't install cable TV or satellite TV without our approval. No alterations of the property without our approval, even if they're improvements to the property, they have to be approved up front. All utilities have to stay on through the entire term of the lease. Smoking is prohibited on the property. This does include marijuana smoking. The only pets authorized in the property are the pets specifically listed in your lease. And then there's a $25 per month per pet rent plus a $100 admin fee to get them screened and approved for move-in. If you don't follow any of the rules in this lease or pay what you owe, then that places you in default, and we will obviously have to file eviction to cure that. We'll give you a 3-day notice before we do that. Obviously, if the property is destroyed, then that would terminate the lease. The disclaimer says that you're not relying on any advice given by us. Basically, we represent the landlord. We don't represent you, so it's important for you, if you have any questions, to speak to your own attorney or other expert counsel for any questions you may have. You acknowledge that you've checked the local crime statistics and surveyed the neighborhood, and you understand the conditions of the area. Time is of the essence. It's important that you sign your lease right away. The lease is, if it's written in the name of 2 or more people, then both of you, or however many people are on the lease, remain responsible for the lease for the entire term of the lease. If someone leaves, that doesn't just leave the other people responsible for the lease. Everyone that's listed is always responsible. This is the entire agreement. There are no verbal agreements. Everything that's contained in this lease is the entirety of what we have agreed upon. All notices must be in writing. It lists the appliances that are included in the house. Let us know if this is incorrect when you read it. Obviously, you agree to follow all laws. Your rental application has to be accurate. You do waive any trial by jury. And you give us approval up front to release your information to landlords that might request it to verify your rental history from us. If you want to terminate your lease early, you have that right, but you have to pay 2 months' rent as early termination penalty, a $250 admin fee, give 2 full months' notice, and pay your normal rent during that 2-month notice period. This all has to be paid at the time notice is given. Obviously, if you're active duty military, there are special rules that apply to that, so we will follow federal and state laws related to that. If you hold over past the term of the lease, then you have to pay 10% of the rent per day for each day you hold over. We have the right to determine that you've abandoned the property if you do things like move out all of your furniture or disconnect the utilities. Just like you can terminate the lease early, the landlord can also. He just has to provide the 2 months notice and also pay you a 2-month penalty just like you would have to pay him. If you don't want to renew the lease, you have to give 2 full calendar months notice prior to the end of the lease. Again, we represent the landlord. We do not represent the tenant. It's important for you to understand that. So if you have any legal questions, please speak to an attorney. We will also be representing the landlord as the property manager, assuming that this isn't a lease-only agreement, in which case we would give you notice of that. But otherwise, generally, we are managing the property also, which means we will collect the rent, handle repairs, and everything else related to the property. So you agree that you are prohibited from trying to communicate directly with the landlord. You have to speak to us for every issue with the property. If you attempt to contact the landlord, there is a $50 penalty per occurrence. If there's any special stipulations special to your lease, they will be listed here at the end. And then obviously there's the signature page with our broker's information. If you're leasing a property that was built prior to 1978, you'll also receive this lead paint addendum, which basically just lets you know that the property was built prior to 1978 and may have lead-based paint. And you'll also receive this pamphlet that goes over the safety concerns related to that. That's about it. If you have any questions, let us know.